See, now he's in. Also, hi. I'm Llytic.
I'm Ichi-Tan.
And welcome to What Are We Reading? As the title would indicate, we are continuing with Ted the Caver. Because we ain't done yet, and neither is Ted.
Oh, he's
Are
got
we gonna
a
make more sex jokes today? Probably.
probably. Huh.
Hey, the librarian's here.
Fucking hell.
I returned my books on time.
Shut the fuck up.
Are you saying you didn't? Anyway. Starting this with April 14th, 2001.
Dun dun dun.
Only a couple days elapsed before B found someone who wanted to explore the passage with us. He told me he talked to a few other people who couldn't make it because of scheduling conflicts. Mood. He said they really grilled him for information about the cave and the passage. He would not tell them which cave it was to ensure we explored it to our satisfaction before we made it known to the public. Even the guy who ended up going with us did not know which cave until we were very close to it. He had sworn he was sworn to sworn to secrecy that he would not reveal the location of the cave to anyone on the planet. I won't identify him by name, so I will just refer to him as Joe. Joe, B, and I set out early in the morning to make sure we could spend all the time we wanted in the new passage. When we got to the cave, we were able to rig up and descend rather quickly. It helps when you don't have to haul half a hardware store down into a cave. You alright there?
Everything's fine.
Something catch your attention. Damn it, stop that. Anyway. Joe was impressed by our work. Even B and I took a minute to pat ourselves on the back for all the hard work we put in. And for the fact we made it through. I need to figure out where to put this multi-tool. Because I always bump it on my desk, and it makes noise. You alright there? I can't hear anything. I'm guessing you can? Huh. Oh. Want me to keep going? Alright. Joe is a rather thin caver who has had a lot of experience in caves. He said this might be the tightest squeeze he's ever been in, but it didn't bother him. Nice. I knew that physically he would be able to make it, since I was bigger than him and I made it. He was just as excited as us to go through and get caving. Maybe more. He quickly got ready and was waiting to hear what the plan of attack was going to be. I figured I would send him through first since he was ready, and I would follow. B would pass our gear through and wait for us outside the passage.
Outside the package?
Yeah, outside the package. B would give us 2 hours to return. It was nice of B to go down to the cave and babysit us. It gets boring sitting there in a cave. With our plan set, we were ready to roll.
Rolling on the river. Sorry.
Rolling on the river.
Alright, let's see here. It was, perhaps, irresponsible of us not to tell Joe about all the unexplained events that had occurred in the cave until after he had gone through. But what exactly do you tell someone? How many of the weird things did we need to reveal to him?
Yeah, once we heard some loud ass screaming coming from this hole.
He,
No idea what that was about.
sorry.
Dark as oh.
We did not feel that we were in any danger, or we would have not gone to the caves ourselves. So we did not tell him a thing prior to him entering Floyd's tomb. Of course, when we did tell him afterwards, it was too late.
Oh,
That seems
yikes.
like a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah, I. Oh, I just suddenly got like the mental image of just like his corpse lying there. Yeah. So about this cave. Just like
Um,
saying that to his corpse. Might have forgot to mention something.
I'm gonna say either like dude dies, or he gets like mauled by whatever fucking cave beast is there.
Oh shit! It was me in there the entire time.
Well, fuck. I knew it. I knew it. This
I don't
sounded
like being
so
woken up.
familiar. Sounded so familiar.
Just fucking launches itself through the hole. Just. Boom. I couldn't believe how easily Joe slipped through the passage. He said it was tight, but it sure didn't look like it.
Oof.
No comment.
No comment.
Like a hot dog down a hallway.
Oof.
Once he got in, we passed him his gear, then I started in. Even though I knew I could fit through, it was still a slow trip through the tomb. You can only go so fast when you're scooting with your toes. When I reached the tight spot in the squeeze, I had Joe snap a picture of me. I thought it would make a good photo. Once I got through, B started to relay my stuff to me. Then disaster struck. Got all the way in and turned around to pull my gear through. I had to kneel down and still crouch down low. I had just got my helmet, ironically, and light, and was turning around to feed the rope back to B when I smacked my head on the top of the passage. Human skull versus solid rock. Rock
Ow.
won.
Oof.
Yeah, that tends to be the case in rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
No one expects you to grab an actual rock. What? I mean,
Oy vey.
don't even get me started on when I use scissors. Let's see. I told B what had happened, so he sent my first aid kit through. I was bleeding, but even worse, I didn't feel too good. Mr. Stark. I patched myself up, then told Joe
Oof.
I didn't think I'd better continue. He looked like a little kid who was told Christmas would be canceled. Although I didn't like the idea of him exploring the cave without me, for selfish reasons, of course, I wanted him to at least see the part of the cave, see part of the cave for making the trip out there.
Oh boy. I told him how far to go and how long it would take. Then I sent him on his way. As I laid there, I could hear him crawling into the darkness. His light disappeared after the first turn. I rested a minute or two, then began my journey back through the squeeze. It was disappointing to get all the way to the cave and then not be able to explore it to its end. Actually, it is killing me. After I got through Floyd's tomb, which was painful, I sat down and munched on a Cliff Bar while B and I chatted. I told him I would pay for a motel room if he could stay overnight. Then we could see how I was doing the next day and make another attempt at the cave. I felt goofy for having smacked my head on the cave wall. B said he was willing to give it another try tomorrow. He was just as anxious to put some closure to this cave. As long as Joe would stay overnight, we determined to wrap things up the next day. Once this was settled, we just sat back and enjoyed darkness. We could hear no sounds coming from the passage. The silence reminded me of the scraping noise that I heard the last time we were out there. I brought up the subject with B. Since I had not explored the cave completely, I could not offer any explanation of what could be making the scraping noise, or the change in wind
Gravity.
strength, or the rumbling, or that terrible scream that we had heard. Suddenly, we both wished we had not sent Joe into the cave alone.
Oh shit. B went to the hole and yelled into it. Joe? No answer. Not surprising. You couldn't just hear each other when you were very far apart in the cave. We nervously awaited any sounds. Good news, that is. Good sounds, that is. Joe-type sounds. Suddenly imagining Joe as a Pokemon. Just says his own name. Joe? Joe. Joe.
Joe. Joe.
Joe.
Joe. Joe. Joe. Joe. Joe.
Joe.
Joe.
Bo 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 bo.
Yes.
That was a weird fucking.
I fucking love that.
The 20-minute time limit we had set passed. Then 25 minutes. I really had no desire to climb back through the squeeze. My head was still throbbing, and the squeeze looked tighter than ever. Nice. Still, I knew I was going to have to make sure Joe was safe. Just as I was getting prepared to go through, I saw a light deep in the passage. Joe? I called out. Nothing. Joe! Still no answer. The light got brighter, and I could hear the noise of someone crawling through the broken rock that lined the cave. You okay, Joe? Oh boy.
No, was his weak reply. When he got to the other side of the tomb, he said he was not feeling well. He quickly took his gear off and put them in the bag so he could pull it through. As I pulled the bag through the passage, he began to climb back through the tomb. We didn't even get a chance to question him about what he saw before he was coming back through. He quickly slipped through the squeeze and the hole, and we finally got a look at him. He looked terrible. His face was pale, and he was out of breath. The dust that covers the floor of the squeeze left its mark on his face and clothes. He had numerous small cuts and scratches on his face and arms, probably from his rapid exit from the passage. His eyes were open wide.
We only had a brief moment to look at the change that had occurred to Joe before he started to head up and out of the cave without saying a word. While Joe and B started for the surface, I took a minute to gather our gear. Then I stopped and listened into the passage. I heard nothing, and I felt nothing. The wind had stopped. Part of me wanted to get out of the cave as fast as possible. The other part of me wanted to immediately climb back through the passage and find out what made this cave tick. Then was not time though. Okay. I still felt a little dizzy from my injury. At that moment, I noticed B and Joe had made good time getting up the cave passage, and I was left alone. Chills ran through my body as I scurried to catch up with them.
Once we got outside the cave, I figured we would be able to find out more from Joe. But when he got up to the final climb, he just unclipped from the rope and went straight to the truck. In the light of the day, he looked even worse than in the cave. B and I gathered up the rope and our gear and headed for the truck. Joe said he did not want to stay overnight because he felt terrible, and we believed him. So we headed home. We could get no more information from Joe. He just stared straight ahead. He was shaking like a leaf, and he said he was not cold. When we tried to question him, his answers were short. I asked him if he saw the hieroglyphics. No.
Did he hear us yelling? No.
Did he see the round rock? No.
Did he see the crystals? No.
He said he just went a little ways in and started to feel sick. Something was fishy about his answers. He would have had to have seen the crystals if he got far enough into the cave that he couldn't hear us yelling. But why would he not elaborate?
The rest of the trip passed in eerie silence. Joe didn't say much else. He gave him a brief outline of the strange events that had happened in the cave. He didn't reply. As we were dropping him off, we asked if he wanted to go back in the cave. He shook his head and ran into his house. I tried to call him later in the day and the next day, but only got his voicemail.
Well, if that's not a sign of something.
Yeah, it's definitely a sign of something. Let's see what time did we start? Okay, wow. 15 minutes for that chapter.
It was a very short chapter.
Yeah, it was. And we also weren't just continuously talking about other things.
Yeah, there wasn't enough innuendos to make jokes off of.
Just a few.
Just it was very disappointing.
A few things about tight passages.
He.
April 28th, 2001. In this journal entry, I discussed briefly the feelings B and I had at this point. I would like to elaborate on those feelings and set the... Damn it, stop loading like that. And set the mood for this part of my journal. I hope I could successfully convey our exact thoughts and feelings as we contemplated our next move. If I'm not afraid, we will appear to the average reader as being ignorant, naive, and downright foolish. If not, I'm afraid. Just imagine I said that right the first time. Like, dumbass.
Whatever you say. Alright. This cave had represented us to the accumulation of weeks of hard work, complete with an array of emotions. From fatigue to fear, anticipation to pain, from frustration to glory. To us, we were not standing on the brink of possible destruction, but rather honoring an unspoken commitment. Much like a parent a wayward child, we were not about to abandon our child out of the fear of the unknown. Like it or not, this cave had become a part of us. And now we must see this adventure to its fruition. Additionally,
Tumor.
verbose explanations aside, we were being eaten alive with curiosity. Despite the overwhelming number of unexplained occurrences we'd experienced, we had to go back into the cave. What was making the rumbling noise? What caused the change in wind strength? Etc., etc., all the way down to Joe. What could have possibly happened to him? What did he see or experience? We had many lengthy discussions about what our next move would be. We kept coming to the same conclusion. We had to return to the cave. We could offer no possible scenarios that would solve the many riddles held deep within the cave. The only way we could hope to complete the puzzle would be to conquer the cave. We were going back to the mystery cave.
Oh, excuse me.
Sounds like this is going to be more than a one-night stand for that mystery cave and tight passage. Ooh.
Well, yeah, they've been doing this for a few months.
Yeah. Slowly chipping at it. Weaken its defenses. Smooth talking it.
Just gonna say that if anything involved with insertion requires you to chip away at something physically, might want to see a doctor.
Oof.
What was that one? It was okay. Warning to, I guess, possible trigger warning to anyone with a vagina for this joke. I just remember seeing this one tweet from a woman that just said, "Got a yeast infection so bad I stuck a hot dog up there and it came out a corn dog."
I
warned you.
That's not how that works, but
I know.
Terrible.
Like I said, it was a joke.
Terrible.
Like, I don't think she was legitimately saying that her vagina deep fried and battered and deep fried a hot dog.
I did see a thing a while back where a woman was trying to use the bacteria from her own vagina to make yogurt.
Oh, I was going to say to you. I thought you were going to say to make bread, because I've heard about that one too.
Oh, yogurt.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to make foods using human secretions. Gonna put that the nicest way I can. 2 weeks after our trip with Joe, and we were on our way back to the cave. To prepare for this trip, we contacted the local cave rescue group and got permission to borrow their low voltage two-way phone. The phone consists of 2 transceivers and a long spot of thin wire. I would then be able to unwind the wire as I went into the passage and stay in contact with B the entire time. He also thought it would be a good idea to take a video camera into the new passage. I purchased a case that would protect my video camera from dust as well as sharp rocks.
Sharp rocks.
Charmin?
Oof.
Chia?
Chia.
Chia. I can't go that high pitched.
I never really went that high pitch.
No, I was meaning like for the actual jingle.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it never went that high pitched. The jingle never went that high pitched. It was just literally
Okay, I can't.
chia.
Okay,
Literally.
let's do this again. I can't do a feminine voice.
Too deep and manly for that shit.
Apparently.
Ooh. You mean you can't
Should
go
I just,
super
like...
high pitched like this? Oh my god.
No, not exactly. I can't. Not really.
Do I
The way
need
you
to come
pursed
and
your
break
lips,
your
you
Nico Nico Nika?
Please never say that again.
What's wrong, senpai?
Never call me that either. Ugh.
Do my elbows make you uncomfortable?
I think the word senpai just made me throw up in my mouth. I was gonna make a joke that the way you pursed your lips, you literally did like the fucking cat face. No, like you actually like fucking scrunched your lips.
What?
Like I don't know how to describe it, because it was like a smirk.
I don't know what you're talking about. Because every time I try to do that, I just look like the girl from
Yeah, I think
Pitch
it's
Perfect.
because...
Whenever she's like tries to say she has gills like a fish, and she just goes.
Yeah, because you didn't stick your lips out is the thing. But like the face you made, like your lips went in, like went inward just right to where they formed a fucking W.
Okay, whatever you say.
And I don't know how you did that.
I don't know how I did that either. That's why I don't believe you.
I was more than willing to pay the cost for the case just to make sure B got to see the entire passage. Not package.
I mean, I'm pretty sure B got plenty of views of that package from behind. Excuse me.
I don't know what just happened to the signal. Your video is now buffering for me. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, now I... Oh, were you not able to hear me?
No, I was able to hear you the entire damn
audible?
time. You were audible.
Okay.
God, how many times to say? Like, yes, you were audible. I heard every single word out of your stupid
You were
face.
looking down, and I am a visual listener.
Anyways, something.
I'm also slightly stupid, so don't be too mean.
It's okay. You still cute.
Yeah.
I see. My head was doing fine. I still had a light red line to mark the spot where I tried to break the rock with my head. Never a good idea.
Ow.
I never went to a doctor. Also, never a good idea. But it was a very
You only ever succeed on that once.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Very painful experience.
Then your doctor tells you to please stop.
Very painful experience. Anyways, very painful experience. I have thought about what would have happened if I had been able to go into the passage with Joe. He was a changed man after he came out. I mean, typically, yeah, that kind of happens. I have been calling his house nearly every day to try to talk to him.
Wait, was this another vagina joke?
But he wouldn't answer his phone. B called his work, and a mutual friend told him that Joe called in sick 2 weeks ago and hasn't been in since. He said Joe warned his boss he might be out for a while. I even stopped by his house twice. The first time it looked like someone was home, but no one answered the door. The second time, his car was gone and there was no lights on. I had hoped to talk to him before this trip, but it didn't work out. Joe has
I'm
gone.
gonna disconnect and reconnect quick because you're buffering. You're loading again for me.
Your face is loading.
Rude. That's just rude. I have to be rude.
But I have to be rude. He doesn't understand. I have to be rude.
Rude.
If I'm not rude, then I die.
Being a rude dude.
If I'm not rude, then I die. Do you want me to die? Is that it?
I'd prefer you not die. It'd be really inconvenient.
Then I have to be rude, or else I die. Anyways, it is your line.
Yep, I'm still unable to see you. As we were rigging up the... There we go.
Ooh.
As we were rigging up the rope to descend into the cave, I felt something for the first time. Ever. I did not want to go into the cave. It was not a feeling of foreboding. I was not receiving some premonition. I just had no desire to enter the underground world of Mystery Cave. I didn't share this feeling with you at the time. Even though I had no desire to go into the cave, I knew we had to do it. So I double-checked my gear, slipped over the edge of the cliff. Christ. Again, this story does a good job of just, like, creating that feeling like something is horrifically wrong. Or like something is going to go wrong, you know?
Yep. Right from the beginning, it seemed like the cave did not want us to be there. Nothing went smoothly. Every time we tried to clip a carabiner or tie a knot or attach something to the rope, we had to do it 2 or 3 times to get it right. Fortunately, we recognized this and made sure everything was safe and secure. As we slowly made our way down, we were continually bumping into the side of the cave, or stumbling as we walked, or dropping things. We finally reached a point where we stopped to gather ourselves before continuing. Our load was relatively light, but we were taking forever to get to the hole. Light load, taking
Hey,
forever to get to the hole. Oof.
Foreplay is important now.
Finally, we made it.
Hey there, Delilah, what's it like in New York City? I don't know why that's stuck in my head. No, I know why. We checked the camera and phone to make sure they survived the trip. We tested everything and I gathered the gear I wanted to take into the passage. Then it was time. We looked at each other but said nothing. Then I turned to face the passage. As I twisted my body to begin entering the tomb, I desperately hoped it would be the last time I would contort my body to enter this claustrophobic nightmare. Oh, this claustrophobe's nightmare. Ow.
Yep.
Yeah, yikes.
The trip through Floyd's tomb went smoothly, figuratively speaking. After I got through, we took several minutes to get everything passed through to me. I got suited up and tested all the equipment. The phone worked like a charm. I videotaped the squeeze and then the first section of the new passage. Since I would be unable to tape while I crawled, my plan was to crawl to the next session, then stop and film some more. I could video what I had just been through, and then video what I was going to crawl through next. That way I could get each section from both ends. I was starting to feel pretty good about the trip. I felt a sense of personal satisfaction at being able to provide a way for B to see the fruits of his labor. It was awkward lugging the camera and unrolling the phone wire while trying to crawl. I knew it would be worth it though.
Yay!
Yay.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Boom, boom, boom.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum. Let's see. My brain just short-circuited. I knew it would be worth it, though. Okay, the small formations were too small to show up on the video. With normal outside lighting, it would be no problem, but with my headlight as the only source of light, the effort was futile. The crystal formations turned out quite nice. They were large enough and made for some pretty good footage. I took advantage of the film stop to check the phone. It was comforting to hear someone's voice deep within the passage. We chatted briefly when I unplugged the phone and prepared to continue. The phone resembled an oversized regular phone, more like the ones you'd see in war movies. When I wanted to talk to B, I would just plug the phone into a special jack on the spool of wire. The power source was on B's end of the phone, so it was always turned on. Reception was as clear as a normal phone. I continued forward. Okay. Alright, yeah, I got a good image of that. Of like what that looks like.
Yeah, that's a very good descriptor.
Yeah.
Let's see. Even though the progress was slow, it was steady. Things were going pretty good until I reached the round rock. Once again, I got a strange feeling. Just like the last time. I looked around carefully but saw nothing to be alarmed about. I proceeded to film the entire room. I got good shots of the round rock from all angles. I got the wall, ceiling, and floor to the best of my ability. I even got some pretty good tape of the figure on the wall. It was difficult to make out exactly what it was on the video, but you could definitely tell something was there. After I taped everything to my satisfaction, I moved toward the end of the room to prepare to explore new territory.
Oh, the far end of the large room was a passage that led to darkness. The entrance was about a foot lower than my head, and it looked like it continued at that height for as far back as I could see. I ducked under the ceiling and prepared to see new sights. The walls of the new passage were darker than the rest of the cave at this point. The floor was made up of the same type of broken rocks. The ceiling had the same type of near-perfect arch as in the old section of the mystery cave. It seemed out of place in the jagged atmosphere of the cave. I could only see back about 30 feet or so to where the passage appeared to make a right-hand turn. I thought this would be a good place to check in with B.
Oh, let's see. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Hmm. Oh,
It took a
ow.
couple of beeps before he answered the phone, but once he did, his voice was still crystal clear. It sounded like he might have been snoozing. Had I been gone that long? He said he was doing fine and that I could take as much time as I needed. I thanked him and hung up. His patience had been wonderful during this whole project. He has spent a lot of time just waiting for me while I explored the passage. I was glad he was still willing to sit and wait. I hung up the phone and started to film the new passage when it happened.
Oh dear. From
Oh,
behind me, I heard the scraping noise. It was loud. It was close. It was coming from the large room I had just left. I wheeled around to turn to face whatever had made the noise. When I did, I lost my presence of mind and stood up at the same time. Crunch! My helmet crashed into the passage ceiling. My light broke and I was buried in a heavy darkness. Pain shot through my neck and down my back. The helmet had protected my head, but my neck was nearly numb from the impact. Fear enveloped me and my knees began to weaken. I slowly and involuntarily slumped to my knees. I gently set the camera down as I began to see stars from the pain in my upper back. The scraping noise lasted only a second, and now the only sound I could hear was my own panic-inspired breathing. Not only could I hear the fear thick upon my chest, but the darkness seemed to hold me in place.
oof.
I felt like I was vulnerable from every direction. I wanted to turn and look behind me, to the side of me, and in front of me. Everywhere I looked, I saw black. Finally, I broke the stupor of fear long enough to reach for an alternate light source, the mini-mag on my helmet. I twisted the light to turn it on, and when I did, I nearly cried. I forgot to put fresh batteries in, and I could barely see more than a few feet. Oh, I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Still, it was better than nothing. I immediately began shining the light with all my might into the large room. I strained to get a glimpse of any movement in the room. Nothing. Ah! Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've
The
come to
fuck up,
talk with
you
you.
bitch. Don't do this to me right now. Okay, let's see.
Ah!
I was shaking violently as I sat there trying to figure out what to do. My mind was not thinking clearly. I honestly thought I was going to die right here in the cave. For a fleeting moment, I wondered how B would ever figure out what happened to me. Then it hit me like a boulder. The phone. My mind must have been clearing up at this point because I also thought about my glow sticks. Without taking my eyes off the large room, I felt around in my pack for the glow sticks. Since I was carrying the phone and video camera, I removed as much as possible from my pack, and one of the things I left B with was my backup headlamp. Thus, I was only left the glow sticks. I had found one and ripped it out of the package. I could tell something was wrong with how it sounded. It had been inadvertently broken and was now useless. I chucked it on the ground and searched my pack for another one. I took my eyes off the large room only to check the passage behind me occasionally. I found another glow stick, broke it to light it up. The soft green glow created eerie colors on the walls of the cave. The stick provides barely enough light to see in the immediate area and provided no hint of what lied ahead. I felt for the pack for one more light, again without taking my eyes off the room. I felt the third glow stick and ripped it out of the package. After breaking it to make sure it worked, I hesitated, then threw the glow stick into the large room.
Oh, I'm in this picture and I don't like it. Use the glow stick to light the phone reel, and with fumbling fingers, I managed to plug the phone into the jack. I put the phone to my ear and heard nothing. The usual beeps to indicate connection with the other phone was not there. Terrified, I pulled the phone from the jack and reinserted it. Again, silence. The line was dead. What could have happened? I just talked to B. I found myself nearly sobbing with fear. I knew the only way out of here was back the way I came, but something was there. A third attempt at making contact with B met the same results. I tried to think of another plan, but I could only focus on the memories of the grinding sound that I had heard. In my weakened state, I slumped against the side of the passage, breathing like I had just finished a race, never breaking eye contact with the shadows of the large room. As my shoulder touched the wall, I had a powerful jolt of pain to remind me of my collision with the roof of the cave. Despair, agony, terror.
I couldn't say exactly how long I sat there, but my feet were tingling and my knees were sore. The pain in my back crept lower, although my neck felt no different. I resolved to make an attempt to exit this evil passage. I knew if I waited too long, I would lose what little light I had. I attempted to stand, but did not have the strength. I crawled slowly to the near end of the large room, dragging my pack beside me. Using the walls of the cave, I was able to slowly stand, though not straight due to my sore back. Still breathing rapidly, I slowly advanced through the room and wound up the phone wire as I went. My eyes were staring straight ahead, straining for any signs of movement. With every step, my light would cast an ever-changing shadows on the wall, keeping me busy trying to look at everyone. My eyes burned as I realized I had not blinked for many minutes. How many? How long had this been going on? The only sounds I could hear were the crunch of my feet on broken rock and the wheezing of my breath. As I wound the cord, I could hear the squeak of the wheel, each turn bringing me closer to the tomb, closer to B, closer to safety.
Uncomfortable.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Did you read ahead?
I accidentally read ahead and I'm.
The short trip through the room took an eternity. As I passed the crude drawing, it seemed to glow, as if offering some sort of warning. I dislike that. I didn't know what the drawing represented, but everything about this cave seemed to instill fear. Toward the far end of the room, I could see the round rock dimly in the far reaches of my light. Something seemed different about it, but I couldn't tell what. When I got within a few feet of it, I could tell what had changed. It had moved. That was the sound. Again, terror gripped my entire body as I realized how close I was to something. I had no choice but to continue. Still, it was not easy. I inched toward the rock, holding the glow stick ahead of me in my shaking hand, using it to pierce the darkness. I stopped just this side of the rock and wound up the slack of the phone wire. Then I realized I had lost contact with B. The rock was now sitting on the wire. Huh? I gave it a tug and the thin wire snapped. My hope of contact with the outside world ceased to exist when that wire broke. I had never felt so alone and helpless. Buried deep within the earth, I had voluntarily descended into my own grave with a casket of solid rock.
With the phone?
Oh no!
With the phone now useless, I set it down in the passage. My gaze fixed on the round rock. I proceeded forward, my breathing was rapid, and my throat dry and aching with my mouth dusty. With every crunch of the rock below my heart seemed to stop. Rock below my feet, my heart seemed to stop. No movement could be seen in the green glow of my stick. I got to the rock and peered over the top. Seeing nothing, I took several rapid steps past it. When I reached the other side, I recoiled in horror at what I saw. In the side of the passage near the floor was a hole, with another passage revealed. It had been covered by the rock, but now it was exposed. The rock
fucking
could not
descent.
have moved by itself. No. This is making me think of that fucking movie I watched on Amazon and or not Amazon, it was on Netflix. And I'm not gonna go to
that
bed
shit's
tonight.
your
I'm not gonna
movie.
go. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go to bed tonight. I'm not gonna go to fuck this.
Well, it's a good thing that we have a second session to take things off our mind.
Murder you.
Please
Murder you.
don't.
I'm
Please
murder you.
don't.
I'm gonna murder
I'd
you.
rather
You're
you
the one.
didn't.
You're the one who rolled the dice that made us finish the story.
I'm not even sure if we're gonna finish.
I'm gonna
I
die.
backed away from the hole and collided with the opposite wall. I had not been paying enough attention to the pain in my back, but now it came back to me in all its fury. I stared down the newly discovered passage. I went down at a 45-degree angle and continued straight for as far as I could see. Several feet down, I could see the glow stick that I had thrown. It illuminated the passage enough that I could tell the walls were fairly smooth. The floor seemed to be the same way, unlike the rest of the cave. The passage was about 3 feet in diameter as far as I could see. It would have been an easy passage to explore, if I had the least desire to do so. Right now, I wanted to get out of the cave and into daylight. I slowly backed away from the hole toward B. I never took my eyes off the. I nearly tripped over the phone wire as I turned to leave this devil's lair. I noticed my mini-mag was practically dead, leaving me with only the glow stick. I wanted to sprint to Floyd's tomb, just hearing another human being would help me alleviate some of the fear I was. We'll say I could have done that line better, but oops. Deep breaths.
As I turned away from the large rock in the hole, I felt an overwhelming sense of panic fill my soul.
Same.
It felt like a legion of demons was about to attack me from behind. I felt like my salvation lay ahead of me in the darkness, and Lucifer was behind me, trying to keep me from safety. I found myself moving much faster than I should have been in that cave. My only thought was to get out as quickly as possible. I passed the crystal formation, barely even noticing the beautiful creation of nature in the green glow of my light. Every time I ducked to avoid a rock, I felt my back scream its reminder of my injury. When I got to the point in the passage where I had to crawl, I flung myself down on all fours, barely slowing down as I dropped. When my hands came in contact with the cave floor, I felt an electric shock shoot down all the way down my back and simultaneously down my arms. For the first time since this nightmare had begun, I let out a scream. I crumpled down and lay there on the rock, with new levels of pain manifesting every time I inhaled. Whimpering from fear and pain, I tried to listen to any other noise in the cave. I could feel the silence pounding in my head. I knew from previous trips that B was still out of earshot, but I was close.
I'm not even going to make the obvious joke there. Forcing myself to move, I winced as I pulled my body on all fours and started to progress along the cave. I still held the glow stick in my hand, but I had ceased checking behind me. Now my focus was ahead of me. I reached the point where I could yell to B. I didn't make a sound. I didn't want to stop long enough to talk. Finally, I reached the last stretch of cave before the squeeze. As I was crawling through the beginning of the tomb, I called to B. He answered back. I screamed to him to get everything ready to go. He asked if I was okay. Since he hadn't heard me on the phone, he had gotten worried. I told him no, and to get everything ready to go. And when I reached the rope, I flipped off my helmet and shoved it into my pack. For the first time, I realized I had forgot my video camera. It was a fleeting thought. I cared no more about that camera than a passenger of the Titanic cared about a hat or a coat. I tried to pack the rope and told him to pull it through. I told him to start heading toward the surface as soon as he pulled the rope through. He asked why, and I screamed that there was something in the cave with us. Yeah, it seems that way.
Yep.
Seems that way, hombre.
Okay. My back ached with every move I made. I knew it didn't matter, though. I was going to get through the tomb as fast as I could. Injuries notwithstanding. Just as I started into the squeeze, I felt the wind in the passage increase. And with it, the most nauseating stench I had ever experienced. It smelled like damp, rotting, rancid, putrid death. I almost started to dry heave. I pulled my shirt up over my nose to shield me from the overpowering smell. At this point, B smelt it too. He yelled, "What is that?" Then he yelled at me to hurry up and get through. I told him I was coming. Then I took a deep breath through my shirt and started back through. B's yelling had intensified my fear and panic, as if I needed any help. I knew he could sense the urgency in getting out of this place. Still, as I worked my way through and yelled at him to start up, that I could catch up with him when I got through, he said he would. He placed my glow stick inside the passage, then began to climb out.
Lovely.
Mm.
This time through the squeeze, I had no regard for the tightness of the passage. I was scraping my face, ears, arms, and shoulders. Every inch of the squeeze meant numerous scratches on my body. We're going to ignore how I said squeeze there.
Please.
But I barely noticed them. My back was nearly paralyzing me with pain. Once again, I felt the rising need to vomit because of the odor being delivered to my nostrils by the breeze. Halfway through Floyd's tomb, I took a break to catch my breath. I was approaching exhaustion, and my respiration rate was through the roof. The top of the passage seemed to rest my cheek, and the floor felt like broken glass on my opposite cheek. As I paused briefly to recuperate, I heard the scraping noise coming from deep within the cave. It continued for several seconds in silence. I let out a cry which startled me. I was no longer consciously reacting to the noise. The cry was a subconscious response to the fear which flowed through my entire body. In a panic, I began to scoot through the passage. As I reached the largest part of the tomb, I quickly slid my arms under my body to get into position to exit through our hole. I grabbed the rope and pulled with all my might. When my shoulders reached the hole, they lodged, and I was stuck. Mm. I dug my feet into the rocks and wiggled my way back through the passage. Then I turned my body slightly and tried again. This time I was successful in pulling my upper body through. Normally I would carefully work my way out, since there was a 3-foot drop on the outside of the hole. This time I kicked with my legs and pulled with my arms, and plop, I dropped out of the tomb, right into my shoulder. I tried to roll to soften the impact, but was unable to do anything more than take the blow. Strangely, the pain was focused on my shoulder, apparently not affecting my already sore back.
Lucky.
What, the shoulder pain?
Yeah.
Do you have a sore back right now?
Oh, yeah.
So that sucks.
I see. I rolled over to all fours, then slowly rose to my feet. The smell was much less intense outside of the passage. I grabbed the glow stick and used it to find my helmet. I began to head for the webbing to climb up while strapping on my helmet. When I got the webbing, I reached up to grab a hold and recoiled in horror. In the glow of the glow stick, I could see for the first time the injuries to my arms. My forearms were covered with deep cuts and scrapes. Much of my arm was covered with blood. The wounds were not deep enough to bleed freely, but rather ooze the blood.
Ugh.
In the brief moment that I stopped, I noticed there was a silence in the cave. No sounds coming from the passage, and nothing from up ahead. Once again, the feeling of being alone returned, motivating me to proceed. Climbing up the little drop off provided to be difficult in my condition. Having the glow stick as the only light source added to the challenge. Once on top, I scrambled to catch up with B. I was impressed with the speed of his ascent.
Although I did not mention any more of my physical condition during my exit, I was hurting. With every step I took, pain shot through my lower back and neck. My arms were shredded and my shoulder had a nice gash in it. I honestly believe that if it were not for the terror I felt at the time, I would not have the energy and the motivation to climb out. I was running on pure adrenaline. Unfortunately, the adrenaline surge was about to end. Uh,
Ooh.
do you see a thing?
Ooh. Ooh.
Deep breaths. Oh, that. Oh, you all right?
I could not see or hear B until I reached the small area at the bottom of the drop. He was on the rope and climbing out as fast as he could. I could hear him moving quickly and breathing heavily. I called out to him, and his startled reaction told me he was nearly as tense as I was. He told me to get on rope and start climbing. We both knew it would be dangerous and not something we would ever normally do, but this was different. I stood there looking up to where the rope disappeared into the darkness above me. It danced around as B made his way to safety. He was out of sight, but I knew he was close. I knew the rope was my lifeline to the outside, to light, safety. Behind me was darkness, fear, the unknown. I had the fleeting thought of a movie scene where the actor had outwitted the monster and had reached the door of the haunted house. Just as he reaches for the knob, he hears a sound behind him and turns only to see.
Slid the glow stick into the cord of my helmet and reached for the harness. Then I thought I would let B get a little bit higher when I pulled the rope. While I pulled the rope up that was stretched down to the cave. I would make it easier to get out once we got to the top of the drop. I'm sorry, you want to explain what that noise was? I swear I heard something fall beside me. But I chose not to wind the rope around my arm since it was sore and bleeding, so I just pulled it into a pile on the floor. From above, I heard B warn me, "Rock!" and I ducked under the ledge as several small rocks landed on the floor near my feet. I quickly went back to pulling the rope in. I had about half of it in, about 50 feet, when the rope hit a snag. It was solid. There was no way I was going to crawl back in to release it, so I decided to just forget the rope and get my harness and get out of the cave. Quickly threw the harness around me and started to buckle it. Before I could secure it, I heard a strange noise at my feet. No. My pulse began to quicken. I looked down at the rope, only to discover to my horror that the rope was disappearing down into the darkness. Something was pulling the rope back into the cave. Oh. Oh. Oh.
I let I let go of the harness and began clawing my way up the rope. The unbuckled harness fell to the floor. Fortunately, I held on to an ascender. At the moment, I could not think straight and began climbing out of the cave without being attached to the rope. I climbed up many times without using an ascending device, but I was always attached to the rope, just in case.
Oh, I didn't scroll down. I was climbing as fast as my battered body could haul me. I was in a near panic state and consequently was scraping, bumping, and gouging my arms and legs. As I climbed, I screamed to B that something was pulling the rope. He yelled back to hurry up. Luck was with me in that I didn't slip and fall back down into the hole. If I had, I would have bounced several times against the side of the cave before smashing onto the floor. Injuries would be fatal. Without the necessity of having to stop to slide the ascender up the rope, I made excellent time getting up. You could see the rays of light above me coming from the entrance of the cave. That told me exactly where I was in the cave.
I caught up to be on the ledge below where our relay point was fixed. I told him to keep going. It would only take him a few minutes. But every second would be torture because I had to wait for him to get up. I watched the rope that we had just climbed up. I expected to see some creature from deep within the earth climb up and make me its lunch. The rope moved around a bit in rhythm to Bee's climbing, but it did not appear to have any tension on it. As I stood there waiting for Bee, I kept watching the rope for signs of anything bizarre. I didn't know if my heart could take any more stress. I could not have been more wired. I tried to relax a bit and make sure I was thinking rationally, but my poor brain had reached sensory overload. As Bee reached the top of the last climb, I got ready to clip my ascender and get my sorry butt out of there. It was then that I noticed the rope began to tighten from below.
Oh.
I could feel the tension on the rope, but it was a steady tension, not like someone was climbing up. Either way, I wanted out of there as fast as possible. I clipped on and scrambled up the rope. I hadn't noticed, but B had kept on moving towards the entrance. I got up the last few feet in a hurry. I just unclipped and kept on moving, leaving the rope behind.
Mood. 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 Say that's mood. By the time I got to the entrance of the cave, and daylight, B was almost up to where the rope was anchored. I wanted to get up so bad I almost started to free climb without clipping onto the rope. Whew. I could see B was almost up, so I clipped on and started up. I almost didn't make it up. I had just started up when I nearly collapsed from exhaustion. I managed to recover enough to pull myself up the last few feet. As I climbed, I could hear the tension on the rope manifest itself by the stretching noise in the rope. No, I prayed the rope would not break with me attached to it. The second that I reached the top, I unclipped the ascender. I could see B kneeling down by the tree, so I limped over to him and collapsed. For the first time since I went through Floyd's tomb, we could see each other. We just stared. I knew I looked pretty bad, but didn't know that B was in such bad shape. He had cuts and scrapes on every exposed surface of his body. His face was pale, white. His eyes and mouth and eyes were wide open. He was breathing heavily, gasping. The shock we shared at another person's appearance was broken when we heard the rope around the tree stretch and the knot B had tied tighten. I was frozen in place, overwhelmed with fright. B seemed to be transfixed on the knot. Then in one motion, he produced a pocket knife and began to work on the rope. That was a face.
It is amazing how a person's state of mind can alter the perception of time. I'm sure it only took 4 or 5 seconds to sever the rope from the tree, but it seemed like an hour. When the rope was cut, the knot fell to the ground, while the end of the rope zipped across the rocks over the edge of the cliff, the speed of it causing a humming noise as it went. As soon as the rope was cut, B let out a cry. He dropped the knife and fell backwards. Watching the rope fly over the edge brought the feelings in the passage back to me. I got up and headed towards the truck. I noticed B was still laying there, wide-eyed, staring at the point the rope disappeared. I called to him, which seemed to break his trance. He got up and hurried away from the tree. The cave, the nightmare. Neither of us said a word all the way home.
It's 4 days now after our trip to the cave. It's taken me 4 days and dozens of attempts to get this entire experience written into my journal. Every time I start to write, I recalled the terrible feelings I had and couldn't write anymore. Felt compelled to continue so as to document the unbelievable events, all while the details were still fresh. While all the details were still fresh in my mind, I can still feel the pain, still smell the stench, still experience terror. Even typing from my journal has taken hours. I would like to write more, but it will have to wait. Even now, with several days between me and the event, I can't relax. Concentrate. That's all for now. What time did we start this? Oh, okay, it's been exactly an hour. Alright. That's where we're gonna stop this one. Fuck. Let me bookmark the page, that way I actually have the right thing this time. So, we bookmark that. Oh. You okay?
No.
Me neither. My jaw actually feels tight, just fucking, you know. Special thank you to Summer Moon Soldier and Destiny Beard for supporting us on Patreon. If you like what we do and like to support us in any way, consider going down to that link in the description and pledging any amount of money you want. Every little bit helps. Barring that, you can always just do the usual YouTube stuff and, like, comment, subscribe, all that nonsense. As always, I'm Llytic.
I'm Ichi-Tan.
Don't look behind you.
Don't you fucking say that.
Special thank you as well to Andre D.